Exposition of the Holy Quran. By G. A. Parwez. Sura 2, verse 151-200.
كما أرسلنا فيكم رسولا منكم يتلو عليكم آياتنا ويزكيكم ويعلمكم الكتاب والحكمة ويعلمكم ما لم تكونوا تعلمون.
151 For this purpose we have sent this Rasul so that he may communicate our message to you, explain the divine laws to you and instruct you regarding their why and wherefore. At the same time, he establishes an order wherein your potentialities may develop. What you learned from the Rasul, you did not know before. The revelation was sent to you.
فاذكروني أذكركم واشكروا لي ولا تكفرون.
152 If you follow this code of the divine laws, Allah will safeguard your rights and grant you honor and eminence. Therefore value this great gift given to you and do not let it be lost from your view.
يا أيها الذين آمنوا استعينوا بالصبر والصلاة إن الله مع الصابرين ولا تقولوا لمن يقتل في سبيل الله أموات بل أحياء ولكن لا تشعرون.
153-154 But in the establishment of this system great obstacles and hardships will have to be faced, since vested interests would not allow it to be established easily. In facing these difficulties, keep two things in mind. Firstly, do not lose your steadfastness or courage of conviction, and secondly, no matter what way your opponents choose to follow, you should follow the path prescribed for you by Allah. This way you will be greatly strengthened. During the struggle for the establishment of the divine system, one should be prepared even to face death. If someone dies in this struggle, he should not be considered dead. 168 For he has attained eternal life even though it cannot be perceived through the senses.
وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ وَنَقْصٍ مِّنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَنفُسِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ الَّذِينَ إِذَا أَصَابَتْهُم مُّصِيبَةٌ قالوا إِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ راجعون.
155-156 This struggle will provide you with many opportunities to test your own mettle. You may encounter wars and massacres and also be confronted with scarcity of food and loss of life and property, or with devastation of fields and orchards. Such ordeals may take place, but ultimately those who remain steadfast and do not waver in their commitment to establish Allah's system will be successful. They meet every challenge saying, "We have dedicated ourselves to the establishment of the divine system, and come what may we will continue advancing towards that goal."
أولئك عليهم صلوات من ربهم ورحمة وأولئك هم المهتدون.
157 They are the people who are considered to be eminently deserving of blessings and laudation by their Creator and Sustainer. They will certainly attain the goal.
إن الصفا والمروة من شعائر الله فمن حج البيت أو اعتمر فلا جناح عليه أن يطوف بهما ومن تطوع خيرا فإن الله شاكر عليم.
158 Through this struggle, the divine system with the Kaaba as its designated center will be established. It is clear that this system will have to deal with numerous problems which will be decided by mutual consultation of the Ummah. 42:38 For this, congregational meetings like Hajj and Umrah will be necessary. On these occasions there is no harm if certain traditional rites, e.g., traversing the valley between Safa and Marwa, are also performed, provided these rites do not clash with any principle of deen. These rites should not be taken as the real purpose of the meetings, which is to move forward in activities relating to the welfare and betterment of humanity. 148 Moreover, sanctity should also not be attached to these rites or to the physical objects associated therewith. They are merely symbols. The real object is to excel in doing good deeds for the benefit of the people. 148 So whoever takes part in these things wholeheartedly, his efforts will bring full fruit, because Allah's law of mukafat also knows the intentions beyond plain actions.
إن الذين يكتمون ما أنزلنا من البينات والهدى من بعد ما بيناه للناس في الكتاب أولئك يلعنهم الله ويلعنهم اللاعنون.
159 This then is the purpose of the Hajj. Whoever conceals this purpose which Allah has made explicit in the Quran and make these assemblies mere rituals will be deprived not only of the blessings which come as a result of following the divine code but also of the support of those forces of nature which could assist him in the achievement of his goal. Opening parenthesis. 161
إلا الذين تابوا وأصلحوا وبينوا فأولئك أتوب عليهم وأنا التواب الرحيم.
160 It should not, however, be assumed that such a deprivation is eternal. This is certainly not so. If a person returns to the point wherefrom he went off the right track, and takes the right one and makes manifest the truth, he will once again be eligible to receive Allah's blessings, because he also rushes forth with all his bounties and provisions for the person's redemption.
إن الذين كفروا وماتوا وهم كفار أولئك عليهم لعنة الله والملائكة والناس أجمعين خالدين فيها لا يخفف عنهم العذاب ولا هم ينظرون.
161 to 162 But those who continue to walk on the wrong path till the death will remain deprived of the divine blessings and support of natural forces and the righteous human beings combined. Their ruin will not be alleviated nor will they be granted any respite, because the results of actions become manifest only after the period of respite has expired.
وإلهكم إله واحد لا إله إلا هو الرحمن الرحيم.
163 This occurs precisely as stated above, since it is the law of Allah that governs the universe and it is His program that all creation should receive means of nurture and advance from stage to stage.
إن في خلق السماوات والأرض واختلاف الليل والنهار والفلك التي تجري في البحر بما ينفع الناس وما أنزل الله من السماء من ماء فأحيا به الأرض بعد موتها وبث فيها من كل دابة وتصريف الرياح والسحاب المسخر بين السماء والأرض لآيات لقوم يعقلون.
164. If you wish to see the laws of Allah operating, reflect upon the amazing machinery of the universe and how it has been created. How day and night alternate. How such big ships laden with cargo cross the oceans. How clean water descends from the clouds and gives new life to the dead earth. Reflect also upon the manner in which species and varieties of animate beings are scattered through the earth. How winds change the direction in different seasons. And how clouds are marshaled to perform their assigned duties in the atmosphere. Reflection upon these natural phenomena can lead only to one conclusion, namely, that creation has been planned and is controlled by a single omnipotent being. This conclusion, however, is reached only by those who apply their mind deeply.
وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَن يَتَّخِذُ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ أَندَادًا يُحِبُّونَهُمْ كَحُبِّ اللَّهِ وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَشَدُّ حُبًّا لِلَّهِ وَلَوْ يَرَى الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا إِذْ يَرَوْنَ الْعَذَابَ أَنَّ الْقُوَّةَ لِلَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَأَنَّ اللَّهَ شَدِيدُ الْعَذَابِ إِذْ تَبَرَّأَ الَّذِينَ اتُّبِعُوا مِنَ الَّذِينَ اتَّبَعُوا وَرَأَوُا الْعَذَابَ وَتَقَطَّعَتْ بِهِمُ الْأَسْبَابُ.
165 to 166. But there are also people who ascribe Allah's omnipotence to others and obey their commands in the manner in which Allah's commands should be obeyed. However, those who believe in the validity of the divine laws adhere to them with absolute commitment, following no other laws nor set up human beings as rivals to Allah. 7/3. The former cannot perceive the truth until the results accruing from their wrong conduct become visible. At that time they will know that Allah alone has sovereignty in the world and that the outcome of forsaking Allah's laws for others and deifying human beings can be nothing but ruin. Then they will see how their leaders whom they followed were deserting them. How those from whom they expected support were falling apart. And how their relationships were being severed.
وَقَالَ الَّذِينَ اتَّبَعُوا لَوْ أَنَّ لَنَا كَرَّةً فَنَتَبَرَّأَ مِنْهُمْ كَمَا تَبَرَّؤُوا مِنَّا كَذَلِكَ يُرِيهِمُ اللَّهُ أَعْمَالَهُمْ حَسَرَاتٍ عَلَيْهِمْ وَمَا هُمْ بِخَارِجِينَ مِنَ النَّارِ.
167. Then people will cry out, if the hand of time could be turned back, we would turn our backs upon our leaders as they have turned their backs upon us. When the results of their actions are unveiled before them, they know that those whom they had considered to be their pillars of support have reduced them to such a state of helplessness and despondency that they are unable to extricate themselves from their misfortune. How pitiful is their end.
يا أيها الناس كلوا مما في الأرض حلالا طيبا ولا تتبعوا خطوات الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين. إنما يأمركم بالسوء والفحشاء وأن تقولوا على الله ما لا تعلمون.
168 to 169 Their leaders exhort them to create disorder in society, to safeguard only their own interests and to hoard wealth. They present their own views as if these were an edict from Allah. O mankind, beware. Do not follow these self-seeking defiers of the divine laws and accept naught of what they say, since they are your enemies. It is not Allah's command that you should hoard everything for yourself and create a society in which some pile up treasures while others have nothing to eat. Allah's command is that you should leave the means of nurture open to all human beings, so that everyone can take what he needs. Do not attribute to Allah what you have no knowledge of.
وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمُ اتَّبِعُوا مَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ قَالُوا بَلْ نَتَّبِعُ مَا أَلْفَيْنَا عَلَيْهِ آبَاءَنَا أَوَلَوْ كَانَ آبَاؤُهُمْ لَا يَعْقِلُونَ شَيْئًا وَلَا يَهْتَدُونَ.
170 The only defense which these misled people have for their unjust system is that it is inherited from their ancestors. Is this a valid defense? Be aware that the Book of Allah is the only criterion of right and wrong, truth and falsehood. But they will never accept this criterion. Hence when they are asked to follow what Allah has revealed in the Quran, they will say, "No, we will only follow in the footsteps of our ancestors." In other words, they will follow in the footsteps of their ancestors even if the latter lacked knowledge and wisdom and did not follow the right path revealed by Allah.
وَمَثَلُ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا كَمَثَلِ الَّذِي يَنْعِقُ بِمَا لَا يَسْمَعُ إِلَّا دُعَاءً وَنِدَاءً صُمٌّ بُكْمٌ عُمْيٌ فَهُمْ لَا يَعْقِلُونَ.
171 Such an attitude of blind imitation reduces human beings to the level of a herd of sheep and goats led by a shepherd who has learned some particular calls and words from his elders and uses them to direct his herd. Such are those who blindly follow their forefathers. They are deaf, dumb and blind. How can they be called human beings?
يا أيها الذين آمنوا كلوا من طيبات ما رزقناكم واشكروا لله إن كنتم إياه تعبدون.
172 O Jamaat al-Momineen. Beware of such an attitude and note that these people, blindly following their ancestors, have imposed upon themselves various self-created restrictions regarding what is halal and haram. Allah's law is that you should enjoy His bounties, partaking of all means of nurture save those things which are prohibited by Him. If you obey this law, it will demonstrate that you are, indeed, obedient to Allah and accept no authority other than His.
إنما حرم عليكم الميتة والدم ولحم الخنزير وما أهل به لغير الله فمن اضطر غير باغ ولا عاد فلا إثم عليه إن الله غفور رحيم.
173 Now take note of what Allah has declared to be haram. Carrion, flowing blood. 146. The flesh of swine and that which has been consecrated to someone other than Allah. However, if you are faced with a situation when you can find nothing else to eat except the above and your life is threatened by starvation, Then you can partake of what has been declared to be haram, provided you are acting out of necessity and not out of greed or the desire to violate divine law. This will not constitute a sin and your development will not be retarded. This is because your invulnerable faith in His absolute laws would protect you and your potentialities would continue growing.
إن الذين يكتمون ما أنزل الله من الكتاب ويشترون به ثمنا قليلا أولئك ما يأكلون في بطونهم إلا النار ولا يكلمهم الله يوم القيامة ولا يزكيهم ولهم عذاب أليم أولئك الذين اشتروا الضلالة بالهدى والعذاب بالمغفرة فما أصبرهم على النار.
174 to 175. This is Allah's law regarding halal and haram. Those who conceal this law and start compiling their own lists of halal and haram assume divine authority and make it a means for attaining worldly gains. Though such people may appear to be very affluent and pious, they are preparing an inferno for themselves. You will see that on the day of judgment they will not receive the blessings which flow from adherence to the divine laws and their potentialities will remain unfulfilled. This will be a dreadful calamity and they will realize, at that time, that they had sold their human dignity at a trifling gain because they had traded Allah's protection for ruin by forsaking the right path for the wrong one. How foolhardy it is to walk towards an inferno of devastation knowingly. Those who do this overestimate their powers of endurance, for the ruin which awaits them will certainly overwhelm them.
ذلك بأن الله نزل الكتاب بالحق وإن الذين اختلفوا في الكتاب لفي شقاق بعيد.
176. Allah's book was based on truth and free from contradictions. Misguided people, however, fabricated a shariat and proclaiming that this, too, was divine, mixed it with the book of Allah so that contradictions appeared in what was taken to be Allah's revelation. Such people invariably drift far away from the right path and head towards destruction.
ليس البر أن تولوا وجوهكم قبل المشرق والمغرب ولكن البر من آمن بالله واليوم الآخر والملائكة والكتاب والنبيين وآتى المال على حبه ذوي القربى واليتامى والمساكين وابن السبيل والسائلين وفي الرقاب وأقام الصلاة وآتى الزكاة والموفون بعهدهم إذا عاهدوا والصابرين في البأساء والضراء وحين البأس أولئك الذين صدقوا وأولئك هم المتقون.
177. The fabricated shariat was nothing but a collection of rituals, the observance of which was held to be the purpose of deen. This is not at all the case. According to the divine law, the essential purpose of deen is not fulfilled by a mechanical performance of rituals e.g., turning eastwards or westwards during salat, but requires 1. Iman, belief, in Allah, in the law of Makafat, in the life hereafter, in Malaika, in Anbiya and in the books revealed through the Anbiya, and 2. Following from one above, The establishment of a system in which resources are made available to help those who a. are left without protection or support in society, b. lose their means of livelihood or are incapacitated to work, and c. cannot earn enough to meet their needs. This system will also provide assistance to those outsiders who, while passing through its territory, become indigent, and arrange for the liberation of slaves from bondage. In brief then, you should establish a system wherein members of the society adhere to the divine laws voluntarily and means of development are provided to all who need them. You should honor your promises and commitments. If hostile forces confront you, then face them with steadfastness and fortitude, and do not let fear and despair weaken you. Those who follow this path unswervingly vindicate their claim to be true believers, and they can rightfully claim to be upholders of divine laws, rather than those who claim to inherit heaven by observing certain rites which they claim is deen.
يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم القصاص في القتلى الحر بالحر والعبد بالعبد والأنثى بالأنثى فمن عفي له من أخيه شيء فاتباع بالمعروف وأداء إليه بإحسان ذلك تخفيف من ربكم ورحمة فمن اعتدى بعد ذلك فله عذاب أليم.
178 Mark this. The principle according to which it becomes necessary to fight against an oppressor for the protection of human rights also requires that punishment is awarded to individual wrongdoers for murder, since without this safeguard, human life, which is very valuable, 5:30 seconds, would not be safe. In this context, the law is that a murderer be punished, i.e., he should be considered a wrongdoer not against particular persons but against the society as a whole. In awarding punishment, the basic principles of justice and equity must always be kept in view, and no distinction should be made between the great and the humble. What is to be considered is not the status of the person murdered or the murderer, but the principle of justice according to which all human life is equally valuable, regardless of the fact whether the murderer is a free male, a slave, or a woman. He or she will receive the punishment for murder, and their respective positions in society will not be able to protect them from it. Murder can be with or without intent. In the case of the former, the punishment is death, not ransom money, or, depending upon the nature of the crime, a punishment less severe than the maximum penalty. In the case of unintentional murder, the punishment is payment of money as compensation. 492. If the heirs of the murdered person, voluntarily or out of goodwill, wish to forego the money or a part thereof, they have the right to do so. 1733. In this event, it is necessary that the wrongdoer carry out terms of the agreement faithfully and with good grace. In prescribing lesser punishment for inadvertent murder, your creator and sustainer has been lenient so that your potentialities may continue to grow. But any person who acts high-handedly or unfairly, once agreement has been reached, should be punished severely.
وَلَكُمْ فِي الْقِصَاصِ حَيَاةٌ يَا أُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ.
179. If you reflect deeply, it will become clear to you that the law of retribution provides protection for your individual as well as collective life.
كتب عليكم إذا حضر أحدكم الموت إن ترك خيرا الوصية للوالدين والأقربين بالمعروف حقا على المتقين.
180 As regards the disposal of one's personal property, i.e., assets allowed by the Nizam-e-Rabubiyat, the law is when you apprehend death, make a valid legal will for your relatives and others close to you. This is a divine imperative for all true believers. The distribution of inheritance will take place after the provisions of the will have been fulfilled. 4:11
فمن بدله بعدما سمعه فإنما إثمه على الذين يبدلونه إن الله سميع عليم.
181 The will should be made in the presence of two just witnesses. 106 If a person, having heard an oral will, alters it, he becomes liable. In the eyes of the law, Allah hears and knows all.
فمن خاف من موص جنفا أو إثما فأصلح بينهم فلا إثم عليه إن الله غفور رحيم.
182 If a person has a reasonable fear that the testator has unduly favored someone or otherwise committed a mistake, it would not be unlawful if he brings about a compromise among all concerned. This provision is from Allah, who is your protector and nourisher.
يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون أياما معدودات فمن كان منكم مريضا أو على سفر فعدة من أيام أخر وعلى الذين يطيقونه فدية طعام مسكين فمن تطوع خيرا فهو خير له وأن تصوموا خير لكم إن كنتم تعلمون.
183 to 184 Self-control is a prerequisite both for steadfastness and fortitude in the battlefield as well as for establishing a just and equitable socio-economic system. In other words, in case of a conflict between your physical drives and lofty human values, you should uphold the latter. Furthermore, you should habituate yourself to leading a hard and laborious life. For this purpose fasting has been made obligatory for you as it was for earlier communities, in order that you may live according to the divine laws and protect yourself from the pitfalls of life. Fasting is for a prescribed number of days. As fixation of time itself is an aid to disciplined life. If, during Ramadan, any of you is sick or on a journey, and misses some fasts, he must complete the prescribed number by fasting on other days. But if a person is neither sick nor on a journey yet cannot fast except with great hardship and therefore cannot make up missed fasts, he should provide food for a person in need in lieu thereof. It is evident that the condition of the last named category of persons cannot be determined by law. It is for you yourself to determine if you are unable to fast except with great hardship. If on assessing your own condition you conclude that the odds are even, then it is better for you to fast even if it is relatively hard for you, because the purpose which is served by fasting cannot be attained by providing food to another, provided you understand the rationale for fasting.
شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان فمن شهد منكم الشهر فليصمه ومن كان مريضا أو على سفر فعدة من أيام أخر يريد الله بكم اليسر ولا يريد بكم العسر ولتكملوا العدة ولتكبروا الله على ما هداكم ولعلكم تشكرون.
185. Here the question arises as to why the month of Ramadan was chosen for this collective, as well as individual, exercise in self-discipline. The answer is that Ramadan is the month during which the revelation of the Quran began, which shows all humanity the clear path leading to its ultimate goal, revealing those permanent values whereby one can distinguish truth from falsehood. The discipline learned through fasting is an annual training to remain in a state of preparedness for the accomplishment of this lofty program. Hence a person who is at home during this month should fast. If a person is sick or on a journey, he should, as already stated, complete the prescribed number of fasts by fasting on other days. And the concession allowed to a person who cannot fast except with great hardship has been mentioned earlier. Allah wants to make things easy for you and does not want to subject you to hardships and difficulties. Mark again that fasting is not a mere rite. Its purpose is to enable you to establish on the one hand supremacy of the divine laws in the world, in the light of the guidance given to you. 933. And on the other enable you to nourish your own potentialities.
وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي عَنِّي فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ أُجِيبُ دَعْوَةَ الدَّاعِ إِذَا دَعَانِ فَلْيَسْتَجِيبُوا لِي وَلْيُؤْمِنُوا بِي لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْشُدُونَ. 186. In the context of the obligation to fast. Do not think that by restricting the fulfilling of human needs to prescribed times and by abstaining from material indulgences, one is attaining closeness to Allah, as was believed to be the case amongst monastic cults. O Rasul, when my devotees ask you about me, tell them that I am close to them at all times. This means that, when anyone calls upon me to lead him to the right path, my guidance which is preserved in the Quran answers his call. Therefore, tell them that the way to attain the nearness of Allah is to adhere to my laws fully, believing implicitly in their validity. By following these laws they will be able to walk firmly upon the right path of life. أحل لكم ليلة الصيام الرفث إلى نسائكم هن لباس لكم وأنتم لباس لهن علم الله أنكم كنتم تختانون أنفسكم فتاب عليكم وعفى عنكم فالآن باشروهن وابتغوا ما كتب الله لكم وكلوا واشربوا حتى يتبين لكم الخيط الأبيض من الخيط الأسود من الفجر ثم أتموا الصيام إلى الليل ولا تباشروهن وأنتم عاكفون في المساجد تلك حدود الله فلا تقربوها كذلك يبين الله آياته للناس لعلهم يتقون.
187. Take note that fasting is only from dawn to dusk. During other hours, eating, drinking or having sexual intercourse with one's wife is not prohibited. The relationship between the two spouses is a most intimate one. Monasticism engendered the concept that celibacy is a means of attaining closeness to Allah. But he is well aware of the importance of the intimate relationship between spouses in fulfilling human needs, and also the perversions, fantasies and self-deception to which renunciation of marital relationships lead. 57:21. Human beings may set unnatural limits upon themselves. But Allah's law rising above all such limits dispels your doubts and anxieties and makes it clear that in the hours from dusk to dawn you are permitted to cohabit with your wives, as well as partake of food and drink. From dawn to dusk you are required to fast. If after dusk you are detained at your center of training or activity e.g., masjid, in order to ponder or resolve some important issue or problem, then you should devote your total attention to the task in hand and refrain from going home. These are the laws laid down by Allah regarding matters which have been discussed above. You should adhere to them. Allah explains His laws clearly so that people can fully understand and follow them.
ولا تأكلوا أموالكم بينكم بالباطل وتدلوا بها إلى الحكام لتأكلوا فريقا من أموال الناس بالإثم وأنتم تعلمون.
188. As mentioned earlier, always keep this fact in mind that the purpose of fasting is to create in you the self-discipline by means of which you can distinguish between what is lawful and unlawful in all spheres of life and to reject the latter no matter how strongly you are attracted to it. For instance, do not devour another's property or bribe officials to give you that which belongs to another person when you are aware of the consequences that follow from acquiring anything unfairly. The purpose of fasting is thus to develop your personality in the manner described above.
يسألونك عن الأهلة قل هي مواقيت للناس والحج وليس البر بأن تأتوا البيوت من ظهورها ولكن البر من اتقى وأتوا البيوت من أبوابها واتقوا الله لعلكم تفلحون.
189. We have stated earlier that fasting is during the month of Ramadan. This has led some people to think that some months are auspicious and some are inauspicious, and they have referred the matter to you. O Rasul, say to them that it is mere superstition to call some months or days auspicious or inauspicious. In fact, specification of time is only to determine the calendar. The advantage of having a calendar is obvious. For instance, it enables you to know when the Hajj is to be performed. Tell them clearly that superstition has no place in Deen. For instance, the belief that during the Hajj, the house should be entered from the back, and not from the front door is only a superstition. Righteousness is not associated with such rites. It is concerned only with the degree to which you adhere to the divine laws and with the sublimity of your character. Therefore, set aside such ignorant practices and enter houses during the Hajj as you do during other days. Follow the divine laws and live according to your normal routine. This is the way to achieve success and bliss in life.
وقاتلوا في سبيل الله الذين يقاتلونكم ولا تعتدوا إن الله لا يحب المعتدين.
190. Warfare is not permitted during certain months. This does not mean that, in other months, you can wage war against whosoever you like without due cause. The laws of Allah, and not your expediencies and vested interests, will be the determining factor in conducting war or concluding peace. In this context, the fundamental principle is that you should only fight those who commit aggression against you and leave you no option but to fight. 22:39. This war will be in the way of Allah, i.e., for the protection of humanity from tyranny and oppression, but even in this war the limits of law must not be transgressed, for such transgression is against the laws of Allah.
وَاقْتُلُوهُمْ حَيْثُ ثَقِفْتُمُوهُمْ وَأَخْرِجُوهُمْ مِنْ حَيْثُ أَخْرَجُوكُمْ وَالْفِتْنَةُ أَشَدُّ مِنَ الْقَتْلِ وَلَا تُقَاتِلُوهُمْ عِندَ الْمَسْجِدِ الْحَرَامِ حَتَّى يُقَاتِلُوكُمْ فِيهِ فَإِن قَاتَلُوكُمْ فَاقْتُلُوهُمْ كَذَلِكَ جَزَاءُ الْكَافِرِينَ.
191 When circumstances are such that you are forced to fight, then confront your enemies wherever you find them, and expel them from the places from which they expelled you. You should do this because tyranny and mischief cause more damage to humanity than war. However, bear in mind that we have declared the Kaaba to be a sanctuary. 125. Therefore, do not fight in its vicinity, but if the enemy does not desist from fighting even in that area, then fight back, because those who do not honor accepted rules and regulations must be resisted.
فَإِنِ انْتَهَوْا فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ.
192 But if they stop fighting, then you also should stop. The purpose of the discipline inculcated through fasting was to train you to advance when it was so decreed, and to stop when so asked, regardless of the advantages to be gained by advancing. Take note that if you adhere to the laws of Allah in this manner, He will provide you with abundant means for your security as well as your development.
وَقَاتِلُوهُمْ حَتَّى لَا تَكُونَ فِتْنَةٌ وَيَكُونَ الدِّينُ لِلَّهِ فَإِنِ انْتَهَوْا فَلَا عُدْوَانَ إِلَّا عَلَى الظَّالِمِينَ.
193 Observing these limits and conditions set by Allah, you should fight your enemies until you have dissipated the mischief they have caused, and created an environment where no compulsion or oppression is exercised in matters of deen. 256 22/40. Whenever you see that your enemies have given up this mischief, you should cease to fight with them. Because the purpose of war is to prevent forces of oppression and lawlessness from spreading, and once this purpose is achieved, there is no need for further warfare.
الشهر الحرام بالشهر الحرام والحرمات قصاص فمن اعتدى عليكم فاعتدوا عليه بمثل ما اعتدى عليكم واتقوا الله واعلموا أن الله مع المتقين.
194 If there is a break in warfare, the chances for peace and reconciliation become brighter. For this reason, some months have been specified in which war is not permitted. However, war is between two opposing parties, and cessation of war must be reciprocal. If one party violates the agreement not to fight, the other is released from it automatically. In short, adhere to the laws of Allah in all matters, believing that those who do so have the support of Allah and are rewarded with success.
وَأَنفِقُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ وَلَا تُلْقُوا بِأَيْدِيكُمْ إِلَى التَّهْلُكَةِ وَأَحْسِنُوا إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ الْمُحْسِنِينَ.
195 Wars disrupt the economic systems of a society. This must not happen, otherwise you will be ruined. For this purpose, place your resources at the disposal of the system. Nizam. Allah loves Mozanin.
وَأَتِمُّوا الْحَجَّ وَالْعُمْرَةَ لِلَّهِ فَإِنْ أُحْصِرْتُمْ فَمَا اسْتَيْسَرَ مِنَ الْهَدْيِ وَلَا تَحْلِقُوا رُؤُوسَكُمْ حَتَّى يَبْلُغَ الْهَدْيُ مَحِلَّهُ فَمَنْ كَانَ مِنْكُمْ مَرِيضًا أَوْ بِهِ أَذًى مِنْ رَأْسِهِ فَفِدْيَةٌ مِنْ صيام أو صدقة أو نسك فإذا أمنتم فمن تمتع بالعمرة إلى الحج فما استيسر من الهدي فمن لم يجد فصيام 3 أيام في الحج و7 إذا رجعتم تلك 10 كاملة ذلك لمن لم يكن أهله حاضر المسجد الحرام واتقوا الله واعلموا أن الله شديد العقاب.
196 It is obvious that continuous struggle is required for the establishment and consolidation of a system of law and equity. For this purpose it is necessary that you should have periodic meetings, such as Hajj and Umrah. The venue of these meetings should be the Kaaba, which is the center of your system. If at any time you are prevented from going there, you should send whatever you can, as offering to be used by those who have assembled there. To maintain homogeneity with this assembly, you should perform similar rites to the ones performed by the assembly, e.g., do not shave your head until your offerings have reached there, but if you are ill or have some head ailment, then you can fast, give a donation or an offering in lieu of shaving your head. In times of peace, when you perform Hajj and Umrah, you can take your gift with you. If you cannot afford to take a gift, then fast for 3 days during Hajj and for another 7 days upon your return. This is for those whose family is not in Mecca. Note again that the purpose of these meetings is mutual consultation for the consolidation of the divine system. As far as rituals are concerned, their purpose is to create homogeneity amongst members of the society. Beyond that, they have no purpose, they are not an end in itself, and whoever considers so, should remember that the result would be sheer destruction, as the law of Allah is severe in retribution.
الحج أشهر معلومات فمن فرض فيهن الحج فلا رفث ولا فسوق ولا جدال في الحج وما تفعلوا من خير يعلمه الله وتزودوا فإن خير الزاد التقوى واتقون يا أولي الألباب.
197 The timing of Hajj is prescribed and known to all. Whoever undertakes to perform this duty should be careful not to do anything demeaning or obscene, e.g., use of harsh or vulgar language or unnecessary wrangling. Instead, he should do whatever good he can. 22-28. He should also possess enough means to meet the necessary expenses of traveling to and from Mecca and maintaining himself during the meeting. O men of understanding, be mindful of these instructions.
ليس عليكم جناح أن تبتغوا فضلا من ربكم فإذا أفضتم من عرفات فاذكروا الله عند المشعر الحرام واذكروه كما هداكم وإن كنتم من قبله لمن الضالين.
198 Keep in mind that the mutual consultations which take place during these meetings do not exclude discussion of business and trade as well as other economic affairs of the Ummah. When you return from Arafat, where you have been introduced to one another, assemble again near Muzdalifah and reflect upon the various aspects of the divine system. We are giving you these instructions in detail because before Islam you were ignorant of the purpose of Hajj and Umrah.
ثم أفيضوا من حيث أفاض الناس واستغفروا الله إن الله غفور رحيم.
199 When the proceedings have ended, you should return to your own lands, without feeling that you are any different from other people, and think of ways to make your ummah secure and self-sufficient according to the program settled in the aforesaid assembly. This way, Allah will surely bestow His protection and rahmat on you.
فإذا قضيتم مناسككم فاذكروا الله كذكركم آباءكم أو أشد ذكرا فمن الناس من يقول ربنا آتنا في الدنيا وما له في الآخرة من خلاق.
200 In earlier days during your assemblies you used to talk about your ancestors boastfully. Your talk made the common people feel inferior, so obviously they could not participate in it. Now on return from the assembly you should talk about Allah's guidance instead. Moreover, people who consider the worldly gains an end in itself who get such benefits, but have no share in the hereafter.